This episode is brought to you by yours truly, Matt Norn of Remax Bell Park. For all of your real estate needs, call me 860-428-6534. In the meantime, check out my latest listing.
I got this ticket out of town. It'll take me anywhere but down. So I think I'll hang out in the clouds, 10,000 feet above the ground. Just say you're ready for a new thing. Let's take ourselves up to the sky, yeah. I ain't talking about an airplane. We found a better way to fly. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Welcome to the Community Workbench. This is Matt Norn and Kyle Morrissey. We are your hosts of the #1 podcast, In My Basement. At the bench, we try to repair the sense of community. So every week, we bring you small businesses, entrepreneurs, community leaders, and pretty much whoever we feel like talking to. And today, we feel like talking to Keith Gosselin of Northeast Onsite Services, LLC. Hi, Keith.
How are you?
I'm good. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So Northeast Onsite Services sounds pretty broad. What exactly do you guys do down there?
So when I started Northeast Onsite Services almost 11 years ago, we were primarily a mobile drug and alcohol testing company. So we would work with what they called third-party administrators, and we'd go to large companies and do their testing on site. Over the years, we've kind of adapted, brought in new services, and started running programs ourselves. So the business model has grown, and I always feel if you're not growing and expanding, you're dying. So I will continue pushing and growing until the day I want to get out.
Gotcha. So when, so like, what? I guess so. You started 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, almost 11. It's crazy.
Almost 11. Wow, nice. What like what'd you do before that? What's your like educational background?
Well, I graduated Killeen High School. I worked in restaurants, but right after high school in 1995, I was brought in. A friend of mine, her dad came into the restaurant I worked at, the Golden Greek, and he said, "Hey Keith," he goes, "I always liked you." He goes, "I want you to come work for me." And I said, "What do you do?" He goes, "I do drug testing." He goes, "I'm vice president of a drug testing company." He handed me a card. He said, "Come tomorrow morning, 9:00, and meet me." I said, "Okay." So as he left, the waiter turns around, looks at me, and goes, "Dude, you're gonna try the good stuff." So when I got there the next day, it was like, oh, like, so like we're gonna be handling pee, like that's what we're doing. So it was a little culture shock, but so that's when I started in this industry. I went to work for him in 1995. The company back then was only about 3 or 4 years old. When I went there was 20 people, 25 working in a basement in Glastonbury. In 2010, basically the company was sold. He ended up getting the VP got his walking papers because he was a stockholder.
Gotcha.
And then I stayed on for another 4 years before they were changing and moving things around, and I didn't fit the mold. So they came to me and said, "Hey, we're gonna cut you loose at the end of the month." Then they came back to me and said, "If you go on your own, we'll supply you the business." So I said, "Well," I looked at my wife, and she goes, "What do you want to do?" And I go, "I don't know. Like maybe I want to try something different." I put my resume out 40 companies, not one call back. Back then, it was tough to get a job.
Yeah.
So I looked at her again. I go, "What do you think?" And she goes, "We'll try it." So I started on my own that first year. I was like, I think this can go. And then I kept growing and expanding, and that's where I am today.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So now, like, what did you when you started it? Like, what did you do for testing?
Well,
and whatnot?
primarily we live in the DOT world, so
Okay.
most of what we do is all drug testing for the DOT.
Yeah.
So it's required, which is kind of unique to any other business because no other business is like, "Hey, you have to do this." So the DOT says you have to do drug testing, but they don't run the programs. So companies like mine were formed
Yeah.
to run those programs. And then it's a very strict procedure on how the samples are taken. Even with alcohol, we carry breath testers, not the kind in your car that won't start, but actual breath testers in the back that we bring right on site to the clients. And now, I mean, I have one of my guys, Matt, does the night jobs. He goes to the airports and gets right up to the plane and pulls the people off the plane to do their test. So
Wow.
it's pretty cool. We
So
have SIDA badges.
It's random.
Yeah, yeah. We have SIDA badges. We can walk right past security, right to the runway. It's pretty cool. You're like a little kid on the runway looking up at the planes. It's kind of cool.
Wow.
We go on boats that are coming in, the big barges that are delivering oil. We go on the boats and we test the whole crew on the boats. Cities, towns, police officers.
Wow. So now, now I get the on-site part.
Right. That's where the on-site came in. So when we
So
opened the
smart.
office over here, we kind of shrunk it down to NOS, Northeast Onsite Services, and put the employer lab services underneath because we needed people to understand what we did there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was confused.
Yeah, that was like, I hear you.
So, so you go to an airport. What's would you say SIDA badge?
Yeah, SIDA badge is the badge. Like if you see workers that work there,
Yeah.
they all have these badges, and you have to buzz yourself through doors.
Is that an acronym? SIDA?
You know, that's a good question.
Oh, is it SIDA?
Yeah, it is SIDA.
Okay.
Somebody watching now is like, that dummy doesn't know what that means. And, they're probably right. Yeah, but yeah.
I carry the badge.
I know
that's all
our
that matters.
our TWIC cards is a transportation workers identity card.
Yeah.
And that gets us into the ports, but the SIDA badge, I'm not
So
really.
that'll even get you if you go down to DOT, Pomfret Garage.
You don't need any
State
badge
Garage.
to get in there.
No, I mean you still go down there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just do you choose when it is, or do they call you and say, "Hey, randomly test this guy"?
No. That wouldn't be a random test. That would be a reasonable suspicion.
We know how random
Yeah.
tests are generated.
Right. So I have a random software. So it all depends on the client. So some of our clients, Killingly, town of Killingly is not with us, but we service them. So we do their drug testing on site. So we get their list from the TPA, the third party administrator, and then I reach out to them there and schedule a day to go get their testing done. Not everyone knows it's only one person at the town of Killingly that would know we're coming. But then you have the town of Brooklyn is one of my clients, and if one of those guys gets selected, I call Tommy in the morning. I say, Tommy, I need to see so and so this morning. So it just depends on the client.
Oh, so you have software that just constantly is generating names.
Yeah, so we run quarterly selections. So every quarter, so January 1st, April 1st, so on, I'll get the random runs. So the weeks before, we start getting lists together and make sure everyone's accurate, nobody's quit or time off, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we run the random on the 1st.
Wow.
So nobody likes it when you show up.
No, not really. Listen, I'm hardly on the road ever anymore. It's most of the guys. I'm stuck in the office now doing the data entry, the payroll, the billing. That's important.
Yeah.
Got to send out bills so we can get paid.
Yeah. How often? How many employees do you have?
I have six on the payroll, and I have another company that we work with in Bridgeport.
Wow.
And we cover a lot of ground. So we cover Connecticut, Mass, Rhode Island, lower parts of New Hampshire. We've been to lower parts of Maine. We've been to Western New York.
Wow.
So we cover a lot of ground. I mean, my main guy, Seth, is, I can't talk about him enough. He's awesome. I mean, there are times 4 o'clock in the morning, he's up in Greenfield already. So his mornings could start at 1 o'clock, and we run 24/7. So my phone could ding at any point in time, and somebody's going to work.
Huh. Wow. Oh, because it's that random.
Well,
They
it could be the
just-
random, or it could be post-accident, reasonable suspicion. A trucker gets into an accident, he's got to be tested.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So if it's DOT related and then they do like a breathalyzer that the cops use, they call you in for after that for like a actual official one, or
Correct. So the DOT won't allow a state one.
Right,
So
okay.
there's reasons why. Like it's got the equipment has to meet the workplace testing protocols. So yeah. So we get the call, we go out and do the test.
And it's always pee?
Yeah. They don't allow anything else at the moment. Oral fluid is in the works, but it's not ready to go yet.
Gotcha. So I went and worked for a school for a little while, and
they let you.
yeah, but they took armpit.
Background check?
They
Armpit here.
They took
Yeah.
armpit hair,
Yeah.
and it could go back like months.
Oh,
They
yeah.
say
to what you
6
did.
months hair
Yeah, or
follicles.
something like
Well,
that.
so generally it's a 90-day window for hair samples.
Okay.
We offer hair testing, but most of the people that come in for that are it's like a court order type thing. It's usually a custody case. I do know a client that's local that uses hair testing for their pre-employments. That's a school, so that could be the one you worked at.
Yeah.
I manage the program after, so they get their initial test with the hair, and then they come to me with their doctor, and then they come to me after for their regular
For the actual
appointments.
the
Were you
sample
bald
goes
at
to
the
you.
time? Is that why?
Yeah, but I mean, and you're right. We had to go to the doctor, and the
Yeah.
nurse, and she's like, lift up your arm, and I braced for it. I thought they were gonna pull it out with a follicle, nope, she just snipped it off. I'm like,
Yep.
oh, that's different.
Yeah.
I was like,
That's what
I was
always
ready to be.
Oh, they don't
like,
need the
plucked.
root.
I was ready to be plucked.
it's always my luck too. When somebody comes in for a hair test, I always get the bald guy. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be spending time in some dude's armpit.
Yeah.
It's never a good time. We charge a lot of money for that.
Why
so-
can't you take like arm hair? Or
Oh,
something
you
like-
can. I mean,
Oh,
you can go
okay.
under the beard. You're supposed to start at the head, work your way down, the back of the neck, the back.
You take
the
more than
chest.
one sample.
Well, it's either body or hair,
Oh, okay.
or head or body.
Gotcha.
No pubes are allowed because that's always somebody's question. But I mean, so generally, and it's quite a bit of hair too. So think about like a number 2 pencil. Like that's if you're cutting a woman's hair, you're lifting up the back of her hair and you're cutting across. You need the thickness of a number 2 pencil.
Oh wow.
If you're doing your armpit hair, you basically need like the
All of
size-
your armpit.
Well, the size of like a loose cotton ball. So it's
Oh.
it's really quite a bit of hair.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, that is interesting. But that's when someone so they go to the doctors to do that. Like they would have a
No, they come to my office. We
they
do it all
can
the
go
time.
to your
Yeah,
oh okay.
yeah, we do it all the
so
time.
that school sent me to
Right.
the doctors and
Yep.
the sample must have gone to you then.
No, actually, they do their own. I don't know why, but they do their own hair testing first, and then they come to me after for their. That school has a van license.
Yep.
To drive the students.
Yeah.
The state says they have to be in a random drug testing program, so I run their
Oh,
program.
you do it after the
Oh,
initial.
Right.
Gotcha.
They're the only ones. Most people do a urine test to start, but
Mm-hmm.
they want the hair test.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't drive for the schools. I was
And there's different reasons for it. So
Yeah.
a hair test won't tell you what's in the body right now. So if the two of you smoked a joint and never have, if I cut your hair tomorrow, it's not going to show up. Like a week to 10 days from now, it's going to show up, but not right away because it has to have time to grow out of your scalp.
Oh wow. Huh. I was avoiding so there's different foods that can trigger a thing. Like
Yes
I was
and no.
avoiding the everything
Right.
bagel.
Bagels, but
Yeah, but I would think
The
with
poppy
your
seeds.
drug testing analytics are much better than like some general ones, right?
actually they're all the big
all-
labs. So
Really?
we're using all Quest Diagnostics, Clinical Reference Labs, MedTox, LabCorp. So you're using
Yeah.
the big labs for all our testing.
And is there like is there a difference?
In the labs?
Well, can they see if it's a poppy seed or if
Oh, yeah.
it's like or if you've actually
Yeah, they
had
they
what is
basically
it, heroin? What does it mimic? I don't
right.
even know.
Yeah.
Is it
yeah,
heroin?
Right. You're in that range. Yeah. You're in the opiates, I believe. Yeah. It's-
Okay.
So yeah, you're they'll be able to break it down and find out it's food related.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So then
And they raise the
Good thing.
levels so that you'd actually have to reach a certain level to be considered positive.
He likes poppy seeds. You know?
actually I don't have one regularly anymore.
And I like an everything bagel once in a while too.
Yeah. Back then it used to be every day. Yeah. I was an on-site carpenter for the
Right. I knew
school.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't driving the kids around or anything like that.
You had to use power tools.
Yeah. Yep. They wanted any background and drug tests for anyone working at the school. It's
Which is a good thing.
yeah.
That's a
Now,
good
do you do like regular background tests where it's just electronic, like there's nothing else? Like, do you like to go to the school? You have to submit a background check, but you just
Right.
fill out your information.
So right now, if I should ask, I'm in the process of partnering with a background company, and the reason why I wanted to partner with this particular company is they can do continuous motor vehicle monitoring. So that's like the newest thing in the trucking industry. So all these big companies want that continuous monitoring, so they'll know if one of their drivers were to get a ticket or DUI, because that's like on an honor system. That driver's supposed to come in and go, "Hey, I kind of got in trouble, lost my license," that kind of thing. And right now, they only have to run an annual motor vehicle record once a year. So if somebody gets pegged in January, but they don't run anything until December, that company may not even know that there was an issue and they have that guy driving.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
You know
that's
what's
huge
wild
liability.
about like DMV in every state is like it's all siloed. So like you get a ticket in one state, but yeah, like for a long time I had a license in Rhode Island until I moved to Connecticut. But I would get a ticket here. They have no idea because they can't pull the records don't cross. And that's mind boggling to me that it's 2025 and we don't have like a centralized database, even for that. Like, oh,
Especially for that.
yeah.
For a ticket, I get. But
there,
like,
there is one for the commercial motor vehicle. So if they refuse or fail a drug or alcohol test, there's a database called the clearinghouse. And the clearinghouse, before they hire somebody, like, let's say you want to work for the town of Brooklyn, we have to run your pre-employment drug test and a pre-employment query to make sure you're not on the no-no list, because the state will downgrade your license if you're on the no-no list within, I believe it's 60 days.
Mhm. Interesting.
how fast is the urine testing? Is it just like a stick?
No,
In
so
there?
you mean when it gets to the lab? So the lab will do it
Oh,
quick.
I didn't know if it was like
No,
you
this
get
is
the
all
sample
lab-based.
and you're like,
Nope.
you fail.
No, we take the sample, we package it up, and we ship it out.
Oh, okay.
It arrives at the lab the next day, and sometimes we get the result back the next night.
And then you just ship the results back to whoever
Correct.
ordered it,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, but everything goes to a doctor. So, example, somebody that has ADD takes Adderall. Adderall will show up as amphetamine.
Mhm.
So they always have to go to what's called MRO review. The doctor has to review it, has to contact the donor. The donor says, hey, I take this medication, I have this issue. Then the MRO calls, clears it, posts it out as negative. So the company would never know that that person had that issue because it's a negative drug test.
That's cool.
Same thing with
Yeah.
positive.
So anything that's under prescription
Right.
is fine.
Yep, and anything that's any positives reported too. So if you wanted to work somewhere and you came up positive for cocaine, the doctor's going to contact you first. He's going to say, "Hey, Matt, we want to let you know you came up positive for cocaine, and you have a right to have. We take 2 samples. You have the right to have the second sample shipped to another lab for testing if you think the lab is wrong. So it's like a safety precaution for you.
Oh wow. And then, or can I just say, nah, scratch it? And
I don't think you'll get
because
the
if you're
job.
trying to get
Right.
hired,
Yeah, you're not going to
just
get hired
say
for that
just
job.
say no. Well, is there a way to just say I don't want to go through the hiring process any longer?
No,
I'm
they're-
all
no,
set,
that's
or
the
they're
thing.
definitely going to get it.
Yeah, that drug test is owned by that company,
Yeah,
not by you.
okay, so they're definitely
right,
gonna get
so,
it.
Yeah, the town of Brooklyn or wherever you're going to go work, they're going
Yeah.
to get that result.
Jeez.
Yeah, you probably won't ever get a job there.
And I don't ever do drugs either.
Right. For everybody listening, this is hypothetical.
makes for a very sad, uninteresting life.
So the question everybody wants to ask is, tell us about your craziest times doing the drug test.
Well, I was
waiting for
I was getting to that.
All right,
and
I'll
I
let
was,
you go.
and well, I was like, because I was like, kind of wondering what happened in post and how all that went. Because I didn't know if you test them right there, and then like you have to be like, let's get a cop now.
That's so
No.
awkward.
Yeah.
No, it is awkward when you have somebody that gives you a temperature out of range. That's a cold sample, especially if they're DOT governed, because then you have to do a direct observation. So we immediately have to go to we're gonna have to watch you pee in the cup, and that's always a great conversation to have with people.
I don't. I have shy bladder. I would never.
Right, but you got to keep in mind that only happens when somebody either one comes up dirty,
Yeah.
and that's a choice they made, or they give you a cup that's too hot.
Don't they know it should be taped to their leg
It's
to
still
keep
gonna-
it warm?
It's still not going to be warm.
under
Not-
under the armpit.
Not-
You've
That's
got to
what I
be
heard.
between 90 and 100 degrees.
Yeah.
So you really have to time that.
So they gotta
correct.
like swish it around in their mouth and then put it back in.
Remind me after you said that, because I got a story about that. You asked, I'm telling you.
How do you know if it's dirty? The sample.
So with us, if there's things floating in it, if the color is not right, I mean, there are some safeguards in place. You can't, when you go in the restroom, there's no water in there, so everything's shut off. Generally, the toilet water's blue. And basically, the temperature strip is our biggest thing. We have you empty your pockets beforehand, and you'd be surprised. There are some people that aren't bright enough to put it somewhere else. They put it right in their front pocket, and then you empty their pockets. You're like,
Like,
is that like a vial of pee right there? You know, like, oh no, that's my mouthwash now.
let me show you.
Prove it.
Would I do this if that wasn't mouthwash?
Yeah.
Now, color is odd to me because I go from hydrated to not hydrated, and they're wildly different colors.
Oh yeah, but
Is there
usually
even more of a different
and
color.
even vitamins can really.
Oh yeah,
mess
the
with
vitamin
it.
turns them green.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we say color. It's more about floaties in there. if you can get a weird odor
I was
coming
gonna say,
from it.
do you know immediately if it's not human urine?
No, we can suspect it.
I mean, I guess you'd know if it was dog pee because
Right. I mean, there's a lot of times, like if we do what's called a monitored collection, we're basically in the restroom. Think of like the Golden Greek restaurant. Like, so we would stand at the sink. If same gender would go in the stall, close the door, and they would provide the sample. So as you're standing there, you'll hear
yeah.
noises, like you know what's a normal sound and what's not. You know,
Right.
you hear people unscrewing bottles,
Mhm.
or you know.
What's the training like for that?
Here's all the sounds you don't want to hear when you take the urine.
Is there a schooling or a certification for
Yeah,
what
so
you do?
and for all of us. So even though I've been doing this forever, all our certifications are for 5 years. So you have to be DOT qualified. There is no such thing as a DOT certified. So you just have to meet the qualifications.
Okay. And what's the schooling like? Is it
So
like,
we could train a collector in about a day. So
Oh,
you start looking at 4 or 5 hour, probably online modules, and then we sit down and do your error.
Now, do you guys
collection.
go through the sounds? You have somebody just try and mimic the sounds and things to worry
This is
about.
what a normal pee sounds like.
Yeah. This is what a cap sounds like.
No, we don't generally have to get too detailed on that. But, you know, right. If it sounds like they're cracking a beer, that's usually a problem.
Yeah.
And the same thing with a breath tester. We can get you pretty much within a day and a half to be trained on the alcohol device. But a lot of it is understanding the rules and regs, and just because you're trained doesn't mean you're able to go out in the field. Like,
So the alcohol one's that's breath though, right?
yeah, breath alcohol.
Yeah, you
Yep.
can't fake that one.
No. I've tried everything over the years. You know, people tell you everything. Oh, peanut butter. Oh, a copper penny under the tongue. Or I've heard every story. None of it works. If there's alcohol in your body, it's going to show up.
and
I should have brought one along. I guess
the breathalyzers? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd start drinking right now.
See how high we can
Let's
get.
see
the
how high
number.
we can get it.
I hear you. I actually have one of the police units just because I think they're cool, and I have so many breath testers. But it's got a little drink sniffer attachment. So I always thought, like, if a school ever wanted me to go in and do like their prom or something, you go over a drink, you can click it, and so there's alcohol in the drink.
Oh,
Wow.
It's got a passive cup, so if you have people walk by, there's like this, and you click the button, it'll tell you if there's alcohol in their breath. So
whoa!
it is pretty cool. And then you can pop a mouthpiece on and get an actual reading. So
Huh.
it is a cool little toy.
Wow.
God, can you imagine that at parties? You're
Right.
just like hanging
Oh,
out.
yeah,
Like,
we-
oh, check this out.
So when I was in my early 20s, Amazon was in online shopping. It was more eBay back then, I think. And somebody had found like a cheap breathalyzer.
Yep.
And we were all thinking about buying it. It wasn't that cheap, but it was like, wasn't probably as accurate for whatever reason. But
Well, I
like
don't know.
we all thought about like this would be cool to pass around a party.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm more drunk than you.
I think it was Guido Murphy's back in the day that had the one you could put money in and you could test
Oh,
your
no way.
out.
Oh.
But bars started getting rid of those because the problem is alcohol. So people would do a shot or something, and then they would go blow into it 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, be like, oh, I'm 0.07.
Right.
I'm good to drive. And that alcohol that hasn't kicked into their system yet.
Right.
And
Oh,
then,
yeah.
then
It's
they
not even
pulled
in their
over.
blood.
Right.
Yeah.
They pulled over a little bit
Yeah.
later, and all of a sudden they're above the limit, and lawsuits started to happen and that kind of not to that bar, but
Yeah.
Right.
general those devices. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like-
If you had that on
Yeah.
film that like you just blew this
Right.
and you're like, yeah, you did everything right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get pulled over and you tell a cop, hey, I don't know, man. I just blew a
Yeah,
point.
like, I left the
0.07
bar and
for me,
I was
so
fine.
it was good.
Yours is inaccurate.
Right. In Connecticut, they can't even carry them.
Really?
Yeah, they can't carry the breath testers in their car.
So they got to bring them to.
It's a station. Yep. So
So you're getting arrested.
well, no, they'll have you do the field sobriety test first. And if you fail that, then they bring
But
you in.
I always fail that, sober or not.
Listen, I can barely walk with my hip, so
But I mean,
I'm
so
not doing that.
that's the thing. It's like, so you say you do that and fail it, but then you blow a zero,
Right.
But then they're gonna say, okay, well, you're
You could be
inebriated in a
drugs.
different way, right?
Right.
Exactly.
I hear you.
So it's
Yeah, knock on wood, I never had to go through that.
Yeah,
So,
mm.
and I drank enough when I was younger to kill small animals, maybe like a horse or something. But
Look at you now. You're finding people that do that.
yeah, even now, I mean, you'd be surprised. Since COVID, our call outs for alcohol have been huge.
Really?
So yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
it's not only DOT. So our call outs could be for like a CVS pharmacy or a Walgreens or a mill or
What do you mean by that? They're
so people show up for work under the influence, and then those
Oh.
companies can pull reasonable suspicion if they believe that you're under the influence. So they'll call us and we'll go out and do a test.
Yeah, but legally, like you go out and they blow a zero. That employee now has like,
Oh, yeah.
oh.
Well, you got to make sure there's training that goes along with that
Yeah.
too. You want to make sure that your supervisors are trained.
Yeah.
But if you're pulling the trigger on reasonable suspicion, you pretty well know.
Yeah. You have to.
And they call you before they would call a cop?
Oh yeah, a cop can't do anything on site.
I would feel
You're
like
not doing
if
anything
my
wrong.
employee was like drunk, I would.
The cop's going to tell you to call their emergency
Yeah,
contact and ride home.
Oh,
They're not like
Yeah.
they're not like ripping condoms off the shelf and doing something.
Well, what if they are belligerently
Well,
drunk?
that would
That
be a
would
cop.
Yeah, if they were doing, because
They're just
vandalizing.
stocking apple juice, but they're drunk. It's like, wow.
Well, I feel like if I'm not falling over drunk, you're not going to tell that I'm drunk.
Listen, I've never called the cops on you here. And this is an employer.
Listen, I've gone to one or two where I'm like, I don't know if you want to do a test on this person or you want to get them like emergency medical, because I don't think we're looking at a
Right,
drug test
because
stage
someone
here.
with like low blood sugar
Yeah.
could be acting the same way.
And that also, like our breath testers can tell the difference between acetone and alcohol. But if you a diabetic, someone with diabetic shock will have the same odors, that sweet breath of alcohol,
Really?
Yeah, they do.
I didn't.
and
know
that dizziness and wobbliness.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that.
Right. So I mean, that's why our devices can tell the difference.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
So you won't do a finger stick on them to try and get their blood sugar.
A finger stick? No.
Isn't it a finger prick?
Yeah.
No, they're called finger sticks. I was a paramedic, dude, for 8 years. It's a finger stick.
All right.
He would know.
You are a prick, and we would call that. But that would just be unique to you. It's funny.
Okay. So, so you have emergency calls. So
Yeah.
you guys have like a rotating who's on call this week, who's on.
No, generally the call comes into me, and I hope to God somebody answers the phone when I call that. Otherwise, I'm getting dressed and heading out the door.
Yeah.
Logistically, the whole organization just sounds like a nightmare to try and run with staffing.
It is. It really is. But like I said, Seth is a beast. Seth can handle our early mornings. He can plug in some afternoon jobs. Matt basically covers our night jobs and a lot of our emergency calls. Because if I call somebody out at 2:00 in the morning, they're getting paid pretty well.
Yeah.
So Matt
Yeah.
jumps to answer that call, and he's like, "What you need, big guy? What we got?"
Well, I would
Sweet.
assume the client's paying quite a bit more
Oh,
for
yeah.
a 2 a.m.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You bet. You bet. Yeah, if you're waking me up,
Yeah, they're
you're getting a bill.
definitely gonna make sure you're drunk before he gets there.
My favorite ones are the big shipping companies, because the minute they make that phone call and I answer the call, they're getting a bill. So then they go and they talk to let's say the person working in that warehouse, and that person says, "Psh, I quit." They call me back 15 minutes later. Great, I'm going back to bed. Thank you very much
But
for
you
that
get a
bill.
bill.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
getting a
you
bill.
still bill him.
Yep, exactly.
Wow. No wonder why our shipping products are so expensive.
Right. Well, you're gonna think those don't happen all the time, but they do happen from time to time.
So why don't you give us a couple of stories about the crazy
So-
times?
One of the ones that didn't happen to me, but it's well versed in my industry. We have a clinic, a doctor's office, and they have a trucking company they service. And so everyone in the doctor's office knows this trucking company. And this driver comes in and he refuses to talk. So they find it a little suspicious. So they call the boss and they go, "Hey, we have so-and-so here, and we're just a little suspicious. He's refusing to talk, and we don't know if there's something in his mouth." So they said, "There's nothing." The boss says, "Nothing wrong with that guy." So they went back and said, if you don't open your mouth, we're not giving you the test." So he looks at him, spits, urine all over the floor.
Oh.
Now, let's keep in mind, if you're smuggling in urine to a drug test, it's not your urine.
Yeah.
It's somebody else's urine. Right? So, and he walked out the door. That was the most disgusting story.
I wasn't far off with the mouth.
No, that's why I said, I was like, ooh.
That's wild.
I had a female come up to me in my earlier years of doing this. I'd say I was probably 23. I was at a trucking school, and she said, "Hey, I got to talk to you." And generally, that means it's a womanly issue. We deal with that. So I go off to the side with her to hear what she has to ask me. And she said, "I've been dating this guy for like 6 months," and she goes, "And he does a lot of heroin." She said, "And I swallow." And I looked at her and I go, I'm not calling the medical review officer, the doctor, to ask.
This is-
So, you know, again, that's probably a story that I probably shouldn't share on the air because it's a little graphic. But
That is graphic.
yeah, that is pretty graphic, but that was a disgusting story. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we've had guys that, you know, come out kicking the door and the door comes back, hits them, and their own urine sample goes all over them. We had a guy that came into our office and he literally pooped his pants in the office and bolted out.
he was
the door.
nervous.
I don't know what his story
Either
was.
nervous or.
No, but he literally
Do you ever have to do number 2 samples?
no.
Oh, okay.
No. No.
We got to invent a drug. We'll have to do that. It's only detectable through number 2s.
Right. Yeah, no. But yeah, I mean, hot cups, extreme cold cups. I was at a local garbage
Hot
company.
cups. What-
Yeah.
How do they get a?
Well, because these guys think they're smart, and they're like, "Oh, they'll know if it's cold." So then they go and they go stick it in the microwave, and it's like steaming, like a Dunkin'
In
Donuts cup.
in your building.
Or they do it outside, or you
Yeah,
know, in a
there's,
break room.
Like a lot of places have break
Yeah.
rooms with microwaves.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's steaming.
I guess right. So you're
200.
doing on the on-site ones. I was thinking of the one like
no.
you're
Yeah.
using your
Right.
microwave.
Hey, can I use your microwave to heat this up? No.
It's a cup of soup. I just
Right.
need to take it with me.
Cup of noodles. No, but yeah, I mean the hot cup is always a funny one. So the first time it happened to me, the kid came out, put it down. I was at that trucking school. I mean, a trucking school is known for issues like
Yeah.
this. He puts the cup down. I said, "Man," I said, "all the years I've been doing this," I said, "I've never seen a urine sample steam before." And he looked at me straight faced. "You think I got a fever?" I was like, "Yeah."
That's actually kind of clever to even
Right.
say that.
These are the same
For
kids that used to
comical.
put the thermometer near the light when
Right.
to
Oh,
get
yeah,
out of
yeah.
school, and then they put it in their mouth,
No.
and burn their
burn,
mouth.
burn their tongue.
Same
Right.
kids.
You know, and I give some of these people credit. Like they'll come up with any way to beat a drug test except not do drugs.
Right.
You know, any way they can.
Yeah.
beat it.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like it's random, right? So they're like,
Right. So
yeah, I'll never get picked. I'll never
Yeah.
get picked, right? It's like
Or
the
some
ones that I always find interesting are the ones that just they do it once when you get hired, and I'm like, this is a waste.
Yeah, but it depends where you are. Like the state of Connecticut won't allow you to randomly test people unless you fall under certain categories.
Well,
So, like a realtor can't be randomly drug tested. A teacher can't be randomly drug tested. So basically, unless you're in a safety sensitive position, like
Oh,
if you're
okay.
doing heavy machinery or something,
That
like
makes sense.
well, the
then.
teachers around kids.
Yeah, even then. But the
But
school
they-
bus drivers have to because they can put the kids' lives in danger,
Hmm.
and they have a CDL license.
You ever have to go on a school bus to do something?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
cut a lot of bus drivers over the years.
Wow. That's scary.
It is.
Scary to think about.
It is
'Cause
because
it-
you know, I have kids that ride that bus. You know, it's
Yeah.
scary.
Because I kind of wonder how random it is. Like,
it's not random, Matt. We've discussed. This.
well, I
You
mean,
say that, but those random
but
generators
the
cost me a
idea,
lot of
like,
money.
like jury duty, I had to do it once when I was like 21 and never again. And I mean, I'm okay with that, but just like, and they threw me out in the first like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Etiquette,
it's the way you
you're
look.
there.
That's the way you look. you're
Like,
you're one
I-
of the ones that want to stay. You're like, oh,
If
please
it's
pick
something
me,
good,
please.
if it's something good, if it's a big long murder trial, I'm in.
I mean, what else you got going on? Nothing.
Didn't you just say earlier that it seems like every week I have an open house?
yeah. You're doing very well. This would be the time you get your jury duty.
Right when you're busy.
Yeah.
Right? It'd be a good time. But yeah, to me, it's just kind of wild that like I wonder how many people do it all the time and just haven't been selected. You know, do you think that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, some of the people we see, they get picked, and we say it's random. And the reason why is, I mean, I've seen where a guy gets picked 8 times in a row.
Jeez.
That, I mean,
Wow.
they're frustrated.
Yeah.
All can be. But, you know, that's how you can prove it's random. You can't say, well, I was just tested last month. I'm not going to get picked this month because some of the programs we run are monthly, some are quarterly. So if you're in a monthly pool and you get picked, you could get picked every month for 5-6 months straight.
Yeah, but if you are guilty, then you definitely feel like it's not so random.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like when the NFL does random drug tests.
Do you do any of that?
I don't do any
No.
sports. I had a chance to get into it years ago, but there's one company that like has monopoly for that, and it's just it doesn't pay enough to drag me out there.
Yeah. Even like the the local sports they have
Yeah,
all
that's
that
what I meant.
like even okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, like some of the colleges. That's where I was looking at. Like,
Oh, okay.
financially, it's not a good move for me
Gotcha.
to do some of those because they don't pay well enough. I would actually have to go do it myself,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'd have to leave, my family. Like,
Yeah.
we're busy, so
Right. Yeah.
it'd be
Yeah,
hard to
it is.
hard to pull away.
Yeah. Where do you think your next expansion?
Well, I'm adding in the MVRs, the motor vehicle records,
Yeah.
adding some background checks, and then we're just going to keep pushing for more business. I don't advertise. I mean, I got a little Google thing that I pay a couple $100 a month for, whatever. Somebody was looking for drug testing in the area, but I don't generally advertise.
That's how I found you.
Right.
And then
But
I
it's-
couldn't believe how close you were.
Right.
I
What
was
did
like,
you need a drug test for?
when I start a contract, yeah, they'll do them. Actually, every company, so CVS would do it, and then all these other companies they do like an initial one.
That's right. You were working for that.
And so yeah, they all will. Most of them will do just one, and that makes sense because it's like I'm in the tech industry,
Right.
so they do like an initial one, I guess, and then that's it. Which I always thought was weird to begin with, but I guess even like professional careers like that still do it. They don't want wankers on the job. Cocaine, But you work remotely, so
Right. Yes.
Listen, that happened to us not too long ago. We had a person that the company called, and they had an Uber pick up a person because they were on like a Zoom, and they thought the guy was drunk.
no way.
And they brought him to my office, and we did the initial test. So when we get a reading on our breath tester basically goes into a 15-minute countdown, and we have to sit with that person 15 minutes. And during that time, we don't let them eat, drink, put anything in their mouth, and we ask them to try not to belch because that can actually make things worse for them. And then we do a second test. That's the confirmation. That's the final test. So that takes away like mouthwash. So if you said, "Wow, I just brushed my teeth and used some scope before I walked in," 15 minutes later, that'd be gone. So he took the first test. He blew really high, and then he's sitting down and he's talking about texting his attorney and all this stuff. I'm like, "Listen, you can do whatever you want, but we're sitting together 15 minutes." And then he refused the second test. And I'm like, why bother taking the first test? Why get in the Uber and go to the office to take the first test only to blow a high number? You're under
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah.
and then not take the second one.
Yeah.
Why bother? So he just
Yeah. Some of them don't realize the point of no return
So-
versus.
right.
So like his boss told him he had to get in an Uber. He
Yeah.
goes, that's
Right.
wild, man. That is wild. I would just turn my camera off. I mean, yeah, it does like. But and every organization's different, right? Some of them like require this, require that. Some of them,
Yeah.
I mean, like a couple of companies my brothers work for, like they always have cameras on. They always like there's just
They have to have it on.
yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a work day, like you're still working just because it's remote. You're still working,
Right. Yeah.
So, but that's crazy that they did that.
Oh yeah.
I've had CE courses where you have to have your camera on or they'll fail you.
Yeah, so so I had to do a recertification in November, and yeah, you have to have your camera on, and so they watch your monitor and they watch you, but it's like computer monitored. They used to have a human do it, and they used to have you show the room, and you couldn't have like your phone or anything in there, and then they would watch you, but they don't do that anymore. So.
Wow.
Is that back when people were putting on a shirt and tie and no pants?
Every
cool.
5 years I have to do a recertification. And it's always remote, so they always have to. It's like a proctor. They're
Okay.
proctored exams is what they call them. But yeah,
Now with the background checks, like is that so we use when we have landlords that want background checks on tenants and stuff like that before they sign the lease or whatever. We use like Rent Spree.
Right.
So is that like a program like what you would be?
This is very new to me, to the
Oh,
fact
okay.
that the contract was just signed for the MVRs, and now I'm looking at what I can do for background. So I'm not going to lie to you, I haven't pulled the trigger on anything further than the MVRs. It's kind of drug testing and background checks kind of go hand in hand,
Right.
but they're both very much regulated. So I'm not going to start going into the schooling to try to run the backgrounds myself, which is why I chose this company for the MVRs. And I also want to see what they can offer for background checks, because I think it's good for the companies I service. We could be more of a one-stop shop. But for right now, it's a little too new in my wheelhouse to get in deep on that one.
Gotcha. So you would basically at this point your plan is to outsource it.
Yeah, yeah. I'd work with them. I would help them with their drug testing. They'll help me with the background screening. So it'd be more of a partnership.
Nice. Nice. Huh. Well, interesting.
It is.
I always wondered because like there was where was I when I was like oh no I was never mind when I was getting my pistol permit the FBI background check I was like there was FBI background checks
Right.
but that's not something you can just do
No.
right yeah
And I actually have software in my office for fingerprints and
Oh,
I-9
okay.
verification. But basically, they brought us a kiosk and taught us how to use it. And every time somebody comes in, we make a couple bucks. But I can't advertise that. It's got to go through a company called Field Print. So they basically own the kiosk, and I just take people as they send them to me. So it's just a quick, easy way to make a couple bucks when I'm sitting in the office doing billing or paperwork.
yeah now did you just advertise that we're live on
Yeah,
Facebook
go to Field Print right now. But no, but even then, there's different software packages. So
Yeah.
like the fingerprints, the TWIC cards for gun permits, that kind of stuff. It's a different software.
right
So most of these are bankers that we see come in.
Oh.
yeah my family members had been all been like if you're going to become an accountant like
Yeah.
almost all of them become tellers
Right.
during college or whatever and yeah they always have to be fingerprinted and all that
Yeah, it's every couple of years. I think it is. They
yeah
have to come in and get fingerprinted.
even though we're moving towards a cashless society which is terrible
It's true. Pretty soon we'll send you Bitcoin payments and all kinds of stuff. It's
You can do it
the
now.
way of the world. Yeah, we could.
cash stay cash everybody stay with cash forever
It's a nice thought.
I mean, you have any other like stories you got? It sounds
Yeah, you-
sounds like we could go
Uh,
a while on stories.
Other than stories, so in March, the FTA, the Federal Transit Association, like
Oh,
the
yeah,
transit buses,
Yeah.
they invited me to their conference in Kansas City to be a guest speaker. So
Oh,
that was,
wow.
that was kind of really huge for a little guy from
Heck
Eastern
yeah.
Connecticut to get on a national stage like that.
Yeah.
So that was really thrilling. I had a great time. I was nervous. I think that was the first time I've ever run a PowerPoint. Things that were hard for me was I knew everything on the PowerPoint, so I was pretty fluent there, but how do you work the clicker? How do I put the microphone
Oh,
on?
it's like Matt.
I got Kyle.
Right. And I'm like, all right, I can handle a crowd of like 20, 30. I don't know about 70, 100. Like,
Is that what it was?
oh yeah,
And then-
yeah. There was I think 700 or 800 people at this conference, but it was like breakout sessions.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was whoever wanted to come.
So how'd they find you?
So
that little
Ironic.
Google thing.
no, no. So when I worked for that first company, I was my boss actually went to work for the FTA years
Oh,
in the
okay.
last couple of years. So she actually recommended I come out, and I met with them, and it was fun. I had a
Oh,
great
that's
time.
cool.
Was,
Hoping to do it again.
was the subject matter more specific, or was
Yeah, it
more-
was how to start your own collection.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty much how I started, was doing the collection end of it. So yeah, it was fun. I had a great time. And Kansas City barbecue.
Yeah.
It was a Q39, I think it's
Oh,
called,
yeah,
or
had
something
some
like
good
that.
food out there.
Oh my god, yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Awesome.
This is all expenses paid, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
business trip.
well, some of it was, some of it wasn't.
Did you add a
but,
few
yeah.
days on?
Yeah, no, I did stay a little longer than I had to, but I wasn't quite sure when my sessions were going to be,
Yeah.
and I wanted to make sure that I had a room in that hotel, and I didn't want to have to worry about trying to Uber and get there. So I did go a day early, and I stayed a day later, just because I didn't want to fly home at 1 a.m.
Yeah. I don't believe
I agree with
At
that.
that point, just spend the night.
Yeah. Kansas City. I don't know. That stuff's cool.
Yeah, it,
Like,
it was pretty cool.
that's
You know,
awesome.
the problem was everywhere I
for
went
you.
was all Chief stuff, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, everywhere you looked, it was Kansas City Chiefs. I just, the Chiefs remind me of the old Patriots.
Oh,
Always
yeah.
winning, always getting the
Mm,
breaks,
yeah.
and I'm like, I just don't want to. I don't want to look at this.
How long ago was this?
Oh, this was March.
March.
Oh, so it was like right in the thick of it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Right after the
yeah,
Super Bowl.
right after
Yeah.
Super Bowl, yeah, shortly after.
Gotcha. So, did anybody have any crazy stories out there? Did you
No,
have time to network with anybody?
Yeah, I networked with a lot of people. It was funny because my second session, I didn't know it, but the head of the Office of Drug and Alcohol Policy and Compliance was in my session, and thank God I didn't know until after, because I would have been extremely nervous. Because it's big enough in front of a big audience like that.
Yeah.
When you have the guy that makes the rules,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
that was a little scary for me.
Yeah.
But I got to meet him after, and he asked me a couple questions, how I came up with. Running away on me. Oh, no, you're good. Yes, how I came up with a number for mock collections.
Like a price point?
No, more of like how many kits you would need for it, because oral fluid is coming down the pipeline. So they're still trying to work out all the kinks.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought was we're going to need 3 to 4 kits. And he's like, how'd you come up with that number? So it was, and
per
he's
test.
like, yeah, he's like, I'm not questioning you. He said, he goes, I am and I'm not. He goes, I just kind of want to know how you came up with that, because that's what we're trying to figure out right now. And I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So,
How did you come up with that?
I don't know. I think I looked at it and said, well, if somebody's refusing, you probably don't need to open a kit. And if there's insufficient quant, like not enough saliva, why would you waste a kit to stick in your mouth? So I took those 2 off the table and said, all right, so I'm thinking 3 would probably work.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you gotta, there's gonna be a point where you're like, we needed 4, or it's like there's always a variable that you don't. Something comes up and you're like, definitely didn't account for that, right?
True, but
it probably happens now with stuff you do.
From time to time. But once a DOT puts it in a book, like it's generally that's your Bible. So that's what we follow every day.
That'll be wild if you start to see that in a book and you were the one that came up with
it. Yeah, I'm not gonna be that famous. No. But,
well, I don't think you'd have a footnote that had your name.
Right. That would be really cool. I'm gonna reach out to him, see if we'll add it in there.
It's funny.
Sorry, I missed it. Sounds like you made a rule.
No. The big guy that makes the rules asked me a question about how I came up with a number, and he's just like, I just want to know how you came up with that number, because we're going through that right now. We're trying to figure out the right number. So it was cool, and it was just cool to be in that situation.
Yeah.
Rubbing elbows with people that have been in this industry maybe as long as me, but have had bigger titles and bigger companies. I mean, there's huge companies out there with multi-million-dollar companies with massive CEOs, and I'm just a little guy from Connecticut. So
right.
It was fun.
Well, I don't know. That's kind of I've always felt like we're overlooked, and that's, you know what I mean? So that's a great story where we weren't overlooked finally.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I'm not a multi-million-dollar company either. So.
Fair. Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
You're on a platform now.
After today?
To catapult
right
you.
Sure. Anybody walks in that door tomorrow, you're welcome.
That's it. I'll take it.
Oh, man.
Let's also talk about the fact that you're the president of the Brooklyn Business Association.
I am.
That's a big deal.
Kind of. I mean, I became a member of the BBA, and for 6 months later, I became the president of the BBA. So I'm not sure I was the first person that was asked. I probably was not. I might have been towards the end, but so I took it over. It was held together by 3 incredible women for a long period of time that just kept bouncing between the 3, and they were sat on the board. They did a great job of holding it together, but they were all older. Some were looking at retirement. They didn't it wasn't in them anymore. I mean, when you do something every day for so long, eventually, bringing new things and new ideas and new blood is always a good thing. So we still have our OG. We have Carla, who sits on the board as our accountant. What do you call that? This is
Treasurer. Yep.
So we can bounce things off of her, what's worked in the past, what hasn't. So she's a great resource to us. Joe and Kelly Bellavance, I don't know if you know, they're familiar with them.
I've met them.
They are incredible people. They currently own the Stone Ledge Inn.
Yep.
As you know, they're selling it. So if anyone's
looking
to buy an inn, there's a very cute inn right over here on Hyde Road that's for sale.
Yeah, if you need a buyer agent.
Right, exactly. No, but they do a good job of keeping me grounded, because sometimes I wanna do everything and help everybody, and they do a good job of keeping me in check, which works out really well. Amanda Simino, who I love, I adore her. I don't know anyone better in this world than Amanda Simino. Georgia Ludovici from Monogram sits on the board. I've known Georgia for 30 years. And Manny Patel from the Quiet Corner Inn, is one of the
Yeah.
nicest people I've ever met as well. So we have a really good group on our executive committee. John Jenna is our welcome member
Yeah.
membership guy.
Yeah, shout out to John Jenna.
Yeah, shout out to John
The
Jenna. right here.
glasses here.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers.
Oh, you have one too. Yeah.
Yeah, he brought these what, like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
How come there's no guest one over here?
Yeah.
John, what are we doing? We want this as guest.
But yeah, he's just recently been showing off his glass laser etching.
It is pretty cool, isn't
on
it?
top
Yeah.
of all the other things that he does with like coasters and slate, leather, everything. So
Oh, I know.
Even-
you name it, he can engrave it.
Jay Verno was here, gave us the
With a
the
North Star.
package and gave
Nice.
us a North Star church key here. And
I was going to bring you guys some drug test kits, but I didn't know how that would go.
well,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
No, the one thing you didn't ask me about was they do some DNA testing too, but we can
Oh.
go back to that
oh, we
later.
can go back.
Whoa.
To that.
Yeah, but yeah, so when we took over the BBA, it was kind of stagnant. Like it just wasn't. Our meetings were at 5:00 at night at Hanks, and other than the executive committee of 3 or 4 people, you may have had 3 or 4 other that showed up. So they asked me if I would take it over, and I agreed. I put together the committee because the committee is everybody. Like it's not. I don't think I've made a huge difference. I think the committee as a whole makes a huge difference. So we're getting out more community involvement, which is huge. Trying to support each other. You'll see our people have ordered cups from John. And,
Yeah.
You know, we see some of that starting to go around. Kelly Belvance is doing a now that they're selling the inn. She's helping parents that have college age kids that are starting to go through the college thing because she worked at the college forever.
Oh, okay.
So she's helping them, guide them through those steps. So Amanda's building her website. So, you know, it's about supporting each other. You know, what can you do to help each other, and what can you do to help the community that we're in?
Right, right. And the reason why I said it was a big deal is just because a lot of people go to these things and they're there, but they're not always working within it. You know what I mean? It's nice to see when someone takes a leadership role in it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, we've tried.
This is a-
And
this is
yeah, the first thing that happened when I took over was Gary O. Gary O said, "Hey Keith, I want you to come to the PBA. I want you to see how we run things." And when I went, and have you ever been to a PBA?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Man, I was impressed.
yeah.
So I was a little scared,
Very impressive.
but it was impressive.
Yeah.
So part of what I wanted to do when I got back was to try and get all of our departments together because you know we've had some hurdles over the years with some businesses and some town things, and Brooklyn always seems to have a hurdle. It always seems like the next one's harder than the first one. But I wanted to see if we could get our superintendent of schools at our meeting, our parks and rec at our meeting. Obviously, our first selectman has a business in town, so he comes to our meetings, but we get updates from him. Our fire departments, I'm trying to get more of our people involved because I think instead of working separately all the time,
Right,
it's nice to know where we could work with each other.
right.
And that
Right.
1 hour meeting once a month, we know everything that's going on in town from our schools. Our PTO is there.
Yeah.
Shout out to Molly and Derek. They're probably the best PTO people in the country as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. But
Nice.
so yeah, it's trying to get everyone on the same page and together. And now our meetings have 20 to 30 people.
Yeah.
You know, we're still small with about 50 members. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're getting half our members showing up.
Yeah.
And even the ones that don't show up, I know I can call. Like Leanne
Right.
from Bodyworks hardly will ever make a meeting. But
Right.
if I need something, I can text Leanne. She's like, yeah, whatever you need, I got you.
Yeah, we like Liam's
Yeah.
has been on.
Yeah, same thing with Amy from Hanks. Like she doesn't
Yep.
generally make our meetings, but you know,
Right.
tell me what's going on. What do you need help with? So you know, we got a great group there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you see I don't know, any other kind of paths that you want to take the PBA the BBA in, like any more like larger events for Brooklyn kind of thing?
Love to. We're very limited here in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We don't have the big business. We don't have the Girardi insurances and you know the larger companies that will be a gold sponsor at $1,500. I mean, we're all small.
Right,
So
yeah.
when you start hitting, I mean, yeah, we're gonna have a Tractor Supply. Yes, we have Walmart, but when you start looking around, that's pretty much all we have for big business.
Right.
So to hit up one of those big small company and say, hey, you want to throw in $500? I'm like, that gets to be a lot.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed is like Putnam, they can shut down the roads that most of their businesses are on, like the
The downtown.
downtown.
Yeah.
Killingly it's Route 12.
Yeah, they get away
Here,
with Main Street.
it's Route 6.
Right, we
You
can't
know what
shut
I
down
mean? You
Route
can't
6.
shut them down.
No,
And,
we can shut down South. I think they're talking maybe about shutting down parts of South Main Street.
Yeah.
But now that that new park is done, to maybe do a celebration over there.
Yeah.
I know Amy's talked about that at Parks and Rec, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, we don't have that downtown area.
Right.
So we don't have that area to bring people in that's going to help our local businesses and things
Yeah.
like that.
And even if you shut down South, it's still limited as to how many. Like if you shut down 2 roads in Putnam, you have like 20 restaurants to go
Right.
to. You know what I mean? That's a big
absolutely.
draw where
Here we don't have
here we don't have
You
that.
could eat at Sadie's Sweet Tooth.
Oh, and we do a lot. But I mean, like to shut it down for a full evening, and have people, like you think about Fire and Ice. You can
Oh, I
eat
know.
at like
we can't do something like that.
you can eat until you're many
I've
different
seen it.
foods. You know what I mean? Like it's
For us,
tough with that setup, and it's
right?
Killingly's kind of in the same boat.
A little
so
bit better. I mean, they have that downtown Danielson area that they can pull things in. They have Owen Bell Park they can do things at. We don't. The biggest thing we have here is the fairgrounds, and the fairgrounds
Right.
are not owned by Brooklyn.
Right,
so
right.
If we want to do something there, we have to rent the fairgrounds. And
Yeah.
I want to say I've heard fairgrounds is $3,000 or $4,000 for the weekend.
Wow.
So when you talk about renting something like that, you need to bring a lot of money in to make it worthwhile.
Right. Now I wonder, like, the plaza that holds Job Lot, like that parking lot. I wonder if they would rent that for a big event. For that
I don't know. I mean,
because there's plenty of parking behind there too.
behind Job Lot. Oh,
Yeah,
there is
it is
parking
pretty
there,
big.
is there?
Park. Yeah.
No,
Are you sure about that? I don't
There's
think
not.
parking
That's
lot
where they all park for Halloween when
not
everybody
behind
goes.
in the neighborhood, but I don't not.
Are you thinking of like next to Kentucky Fried Chicken? There's that spot over there that.
There's not. It's only like a road behind the building.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything back
I
there.
think it was bigger back there for some reason.
You must
So
have had
you-
too many IPAs that day.
Well, the only time I was ever there was I was in billiards or pool club
Oh, yeah.
at Ellis Tech, and they'd bring the bus back there, and I remember it being big parking lot back
Oh,
there.
you're
Yeah.
a kid. Everything.
Yeah, I was a kid.
Right.
So it's like, otherwise, is really. And that was when there was Friendly Bowl, which was,
Yeah, I went and took a tour of that not too long ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the Economic Development Committee is the only committee I sit on in Brooklyn. Basically, business, economic development to go hand
Yep,
in hand.
yep,
So
sure.
we wanted to see the bowling alley, what could be done there. So we met with a guy that his job is to fill job lot plazas because job lot buys all these plazas, and then his job is to keep them full.
Well, I'd say he's not doing a whole
Well,
great job in that.
well, he's got a couple.
Easy.
He's got
We
a
don't
couple-
disparage people
Listen,
here.
he's got a couple hiccups right now. I mean, the whole moratorium thing that Kinley has really,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
has really killed us over the last.
For those of you that don't know, the sewer system that we use with Killingly is a moratorium on all new hookups, any change of use that would require more. So like
Oh, so that one.
so like turning a garage into a restaurant, which is a real scenario that was tried.
That was shut down.
They can't do that because they're going to use more water. And
also-
so of course I asked, well, what could we put in there? They're like, well, you could put a doctor's office in there, but you couldn't put a dentist's office because they use too much water. So it was like,
Have you followed that? Because that whole story has changed. Because now it's no longer a flow problem; it's when it's there getting it out problem. So it's the story there has changed since it started. Like it's very wonky to me.
yeah. And then another
shadiness going
person
on.
just told me recently that it's really Frito-Lay's big contribution to the
That's
to
the
it.
rumor. And if you actually read the
like-
WPCA minutes from the last meeting, I think I think every person in Brooklyn should read that
Okay.
to see what
Yeah,
what
well,
is actually going on, because it's and if it's not a flow issue, then how did they calculate the flow for the new plaza going in Dayville when it's not a flow issue? So that one's grandfathered because we calculated for that flow. But now you're saying it's not a flow issue. So there's a whole thing there that to me is wonky.
Yeah.
I think Brooklyn's getting the short end of the stick right now, and I know
Sure.
I've heard our attorneys are involved, and hopefully they get it straightened out, because this area of Route 6 needs to be up and running, and it's bad to me that it's not.
See, I talk to people on the phone all the time, and one of the stories, I know it's anecdotal, but it was like one of the stories was, well, the engineers are now trying to figure out how to expand, and it's next to a river and stuff like that. And the estimated timeline for that expansion the design of it would be 4 to 5 years,
Right.
and then the execution of it would be at least a decade
Yeah, it could
before
be.
we. And I was like, a moratorium for a decade.
I know.
On these 2 small towns.
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna be horrendous.
And just think about what Route 6 would look like at that point. Like we already Ford garage now, because I don't know of them allowing anything going in. Like I haven't heard of them saying yes to any business. I know there's one business that wanted to go in. They're going to put their own septic in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only solution,
your
right?
only-
Well,
You're right.
And Tractor Supply is putting in
They're
their own
putting their own
septic.
septic.
Yeah. So.
But your site, I mean, I don't
And
think you
there's-
take the old Dunkin' Donuts and put a septic there. I don't think there's a spot to put a septic.
Well,
So,
right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
something like that would have
and
to be.
another thing I was told, if you, and this is tough as a realtor because you're trying to mitigate risk. You're trying to get real quotes when
Yeah.
people want to put a business in. So I always go and ask where they're saying, well, if you can't, because there's some sites in downtown Danielson that, the place burned down and they shut off. They basically abandoned the tap into the sewer and the water line. And so now there would be a new tap if they wanted to go in, even though it was a restaurant that burnt down. But no matter what goes there, they would have to put in a new line, and they're not doing, they're saying no. So if that person really wanted to put a restaurant or something in there, they could go and have a perk test done and have the health department say, no, you can't put a septic in there. Now you have more of a reason to go to the sewer company and say, hey, I can't get a septic system in, so I need to be, reattached to the system. And then they would have more clout. But I'm like, okay, for a small business to put out that kind of
Right.
money for testing and everything, and then to get knowing that they'll get shut down basically by the health department because there's not enough room for even a small leach field, and then now you got to get attached in and to put the line in's like $30,000. So it's like, okay, so if you want to start in that one spot, you're in the hole,
Yeah.
and that's equity in the hole.
And you don't even know if
You
you're
don't-
going to actually get the hookup after.
Right. And then and then imagine the business not even being very successful. What happens then?
Yeah.
Or what happens when
you
now-
get a famine year or whatever.
Right. Or what happens when all of a sudden now the sewer's available? Like that's the big talk too. So, you have Tractor Supply going in, putting their own septic. Well, when the sewer's available, are you going to force them to hook up because that's how the zoning laws read?
Oh.
Oh,
So
wow.
now you just, hey, thank you for spending $30,000 on a septic. By the way, you got to connect now to the sewer.
They'll be lucky if they can get 30. Well, I guess they don't have many people sleeping there. So
What are you gonna
their
run, a couple-
septic's probably small.
couple of
yeah,
sinks,
their
couple of
septic could be
toilets, like,
small there. Yeah.
And that's the part that bothers me. You can't tell me that hooking up, if somebody wanted to open up Ed's garage as an actual garage, that a sink and a toilet in there is really going to make that big of a difference to your sewer plant. Like you
Right.
can't, I
Right.
can't justify it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's one guy that decides
Yeah.
what can go in and what can't. And I don't like any part of this.
Yeah, it's crazy, and there is a few people in one of these towns that I talked to. They're like, just if you get in there and it's already hooked up, just run it. They can't shut you off. There's no shut off. It's not like a gas line.
Right. They
It's like,
can't
there's
even
no
tell how
shut
much.
off.
They can't tell how much water's going in there from your toilet. They have to look at your water bill. They want to see
Right.
what you're
Right,
what
right.
you're using for water.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it's a guesstimation, right? So if you for a house, if you water your lawn
Yeah.
like crazy, it counts.
Oh yeah.
And your sewer bill is going to account for that, and it's impossible to argue it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there's other towns, and I remember one in Mass. A guy fills his pool almost every year, and he calls and tells them, "Hey, I'm going to fill my pool. It's going to be like this many gallons," and they say, "Okay, we'll take that off your bill." And that's like, well, what if you just say you're doing that?
Yeah. I water my lawn 3,000 gallons.
But they will see the uptick in the meter, for the
Yeah,
water
well, for that
and
time, yeah.
But their concern is how much of it goes into the sewer. Well, if you're filling your pool,
Right,
of it,
none, yeah.
none of it. So,
But
that's-
also, if you're watering your lawn, none of it either.
right,
But if you're doing that every year, where are you going to put that water at the end of the year?
In
So
your,
if you
into
had-
your lawn.
Right. Could be.
yeah,
But at some point, that water is coming out if you have to fill your pool every year.
right. But my point is like they call them and say it's not going into the sewer, and then they're much less concerned about billing for that portion of water. You know?
And it's probably cheaper than getting a truckload. I think I had a truckload of water delivered to my house last year. It was like $500.
Yeah, it's about, so it would get, I remember we did our pool $500 would get you halfway.
It was like one tank, right? One tank.
Yeah.
That's what I.
Yeah.
Yeah, we replaced our liners like relatively
Yeah.
similar times, and it was same water guy.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah, it's very very interesting to see these types of hiccups and how they're managed, and all the rumors that fly.
Oh yeah, well,
and stuff.
absolutely. I just look at 8 months of, I've heard of people that want to open businesses, some of these empty buildings, and they realize they're basically told no before they even start the process. So why would you pay the town of Kinley to start this process of applying only to be denied?
Yeah.
So they don't bother.
And there's a couple of houses that are putting in septics that are in lots that are supposed to be on the city sewer. So I do wonder what will happen to them. They're literally doing that. Like,
Yeah,
they're being built.
I mean, the rumor from the town, I know Austin's been very clear on this, that they would only have to reconnect if that system were to fail. So, but it's got to be written out. It's got to be, it can't be gray.
Yeah.
It's got to be black or white. So, in 20 years, if your septic then fails, you're going to be forced back to the sewer system, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But you can't tell people that, a couple of years from now that, hey, it's now available, you have to connect. But
Right.
I mean, the ratepayers are what pay for all that. So when now you're having some people on their own septic and some people forced to use the sewer system that are now paying a higher bill because it's less spread out, that part's hard too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Craziness.
Absolutely.
Let's go back to drug testing.
All right.
You do DNA testing.
I do, and
Yeah.
and so I always want to be like the Maury Povich of Brooklyn. You are not the father.
Oh, we could do that on this show.
We could.
What? That's not our show.
Well, it could be like a DNA after dark.
How do you come up with some stuff right on the fly so well? It's like, Kyle's already got the AI input that he's going to put in the flyer for that one.
So DNA is kind of hard for me because I am my wife and I are a foster family. We're adopted as well, so we have 2 adopted children, one that's 8, one that's 3. And the few times I don't advertise DNA, but a few times I've done a DNA test, it's a father that wants to know if it's his kid. And the whole time he's sitting this kid sitting on his lap as you're swabbing the mouth of this child, that father's hoping that's not his kid.
Yeah.
And that
He's hoping that?
Yeah, breaking my heart as I'm sitting there looking at this poor child that's calling him dad and is looking at him lovingly, and I'm like, oh, it's heartbreaking, And
Right.
Do you get that real time?
No,
No.
it still has to go to a lab for testing.
Thank God. You're
but,
not.
But I get the result, and I have to call the person, have them come in, and hand them the result. So I know when that result comes back if that person's the father or not. Because with DNA testing, it's either 98.666 or 0. Like that's how it works. There's no in between. So you either are or you aren't.
Do you do you are not the father?
No.
Mister, I want to be Maury Povich.
I know. Well, that was my thought in the beginning until I realized the kind of testing and who I'd be dealing with.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's heartbreaking, because you look at that child and you're like, what is this child's future going to be like now? Like,
Right.
you just, I'm handing this guy an envelope knowing that he's now going to probably abandon this kid.
Yeah.
That's a little heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, that is heartbreaking. How often has it been that it is the father?
I've had one that came back. He is the father.
Just
four.
One.
4 that weren't. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, it's so I don't offer it, but the lab I use, we could do it if I had a phlebotomist, but you can actually take blood from a pregnant woman and a mouth swab from the potential father and find out if that's his baby. Like that's how technical it is now. Wow. It's amazing to me.
Wow.
But I don't deal with phlebotomists, and I don't want that. I have to deal with that insurance. So don't come after me, Girardi Insurance. Jay Long, I didn't say that. So.
Yeah, having a phlebotomist on staff, I'm sure that's got some serious errors and omissions type of.
I can only imagine.
Policy.
But listen, I drink a lot of coffee. I don't think you want me stabbing you with needles.
Yeah, that's wild how far into the DNA world and technology that we've gotten as far as like everything, just like modifying genes and stuff like that, and then the idea of how easy it is to tell if it's the father or not, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, even like infidelity, we've had some testing there. Like we can,
Uh,
we can test garments and those kinds of things if we wanted to go that route. Like, so it can be
Wow.
really interesting when you start talking about DNA. So that's
Yeah.
it. I find it interesting, but I also it's not really my forte. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
drug testing is my realm, and I like staying in that.
Yeah, I would imagine it'd be stressful just being the linchpin that could separate or break up families and whatnot. But yeah, it's a wild world to be in.
Yeah.
For sure. There's a lot of, I don't know. I feel a lot of the lawyers I work with don't do divorce because of that.
Right.
You're like,
oh, I'd never be
you're,
able to handle it.
you're in the mess.
No, yeah.
you know?
No. Some people thrive in it though,
A-
Yeah.
And
A drama.
and
Yeah.
it's actually well
like a criminal attorney. Like
in some
like if you well, I was telling him to watch Karen Reed in that whole thing that happened in Boston with the Boston cop. So if you watch, there's a documentary you can watch on Netflix, but they're like if you watch their lawyers, and it could be all for show. It's a documentary. I don't know.
right.
But I watching. I'm just like, I could never do that. Like, I don't have a bone in my body that could handle that type of pressure or any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's tough, but sometimes you find a good divorce lawyer that thrives on the mediation part. Whereas most divorce lawyers, the more they fight, the more money
Money
you
they
make.
make.
Right.
So-
Right.
Well, so I'd almost say like they're more of a mediator and do more of the mediation part and not the actual
right.
divorce. Like if it's amicable, you just go to a mediator to try and negotiate all your things. It's only one of you. One of them. There's not two lawyers.
Right. Yeah.
But there's still a lawyer.
Yeah.
But yeah, then there's like sharks.
Right. But then there's the other idea that if you're mediating it and you know it's going to be bad, you can be recommending people. And then when the others are mediating, they could be recommending. There's a whole network of divorce
Oh, yeah.
lawyers. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll get this one to a 10 when they came in at a 1, as far as
Yeah,
that
gonna
stuff.
wind them up and
Yeah. You
absolutely.
want-
Listen,
yeah. There's
What do
ways.
you mean you don't want the Keurig?
you hear it all the time in divorce. The winner is the lawyer,
Right.
the attorney.
Right.
you know?
Yeah. And some of them really, most of them that don't like it will get out and just not be
Do
there,
something.
even though that they could probably be some of the best mediators for that situation. But
Do you go to school for a specific type of law?
I believe you do.
I
I
would
believe
imagine.
there's different. There's like general law on passing the board, and then so we're gonna have to have the lawyer on.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there's like a
We did.
Gen-
He-
general, and then you can specialize in stuff or whatever.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't think they use the word specialize, but to basically do specialize in
Right.
stuff.
You ever notice the lawyers that have commercials on TV are like personal injury lawyers, and that's it. No one else has the money to pay for a commercial. Real estate lawyers, all the other ones.
Doctors, lawyers, and in medicines used to be frowned upon to advertise. They never did,
Yeah.
and now
That was
we're-
alcohol, cigarettes. Yeah, you weren't. Yeah, you never saw those ads.
yeah. And then
Cigarettes they're not on TV. Only
Right,
in magazines.
Magazines.
Yeah.
Yep.
right, yeah. But I mean, like doctors and lawyers never advertised before. That was like frowned upon. I was like this part of the culture. Like, oh, you don't.
Right. Now the commercial is about Viagra or Ozempic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you slip and fall.
Or the other,
Or if you have something for longer than 4 hours, call a lawyer and the doctor.
yeah, or a lawyer talking about a certain drug that came out years
Right.
ago. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
took this,
Malpractice,
give
yeah.
us a call. You might be for a settlement. So when you say like with the DNA, like you don't advertise, just people just come in kind of randomly. Like
it's
hey,
on like my list on Google and things I'll do. So if somebody's looking for DNA in the area, I mean, most of the time for me, it's usually a divorce thing.
Yeah.
Want to know, and there's different kinds. Like you can go on Amazon, you can get your own DNA kit and send it out and find out if it's your kid. But like we could do fingernails. Like if you didn't want to bring your kid in to swab.
Oh yeah, you
we
could
could take your fingernails or their hairbrush. It's not going to be a legal DNA, but it's for your knowledge.
Right.
But yeah, those are all they call it non-legal DNA, so it won't stand up in court. We offer a legal DNA that's a little bit more money, but it follows the chain of custody. So they know that we're the ones that are collecting the sample, we're signing off on it, we're sending it to the lab. So it's a little different.
Is that most of your certification is based on chain of custody with all this stuff?
Yeah. Yep. Drug testing. Yep. All chain of custody.
So how does that go? Like, you just have to be super clean about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's procedures, there's steps you have to
Yeah.
follow. Whether we're doing a drug test or a DNA test, there's procedures. So if you can't skip steps, and you got to sign off and where you're supposed to sign off, and if you do something wrong, then you have to fill out affidavits or memorandums of record. So there's a lot to it. And if you do something wrong, it could get somebody out of a test. Like if you follow the proper procedures.
Right. Yeah.
Years ago, I remember there was a sports person who came up positive on their drug test. And days later, that person came on the news and claimed about, I claimed my innocence. I knew that they were going to do right by me. And basically, the person that collected the sample didn't ship it that day. So we have to ship same day. Now, granted, if somebody comes to my office at 5 o'clock, FedEx is already shipped. So that's acceptable to ship the next day. But this person apparently had the opportunity to ship it and didn't ship it. Well, just because that sample sat in a lockbox for 24 hours doesn't mean that
Anything was wrong with it.
Right. Doesn't mean
Right.
that cocaine or whatever drug was in your body, automatically appeared. Like,
Right.
let's be honest, you weren't innocent. You got off on a technicality.
Yeah.
So that's what happens when people do things that are wrong. And there's a lot of fly-by-night companies like mine that'll go out and, hey, we're here. We're only going to charge this amount of money to go out and do your testing at 2 a.m. But those companies tend not to last because they don't have the their equipment's not kept up. They're not following the right insurances. Like they just go out and think, oh, this is going to be easy. And then when they start, they realize that once they have everything they need, it's going to cost a lot more money. And then when you need them, they're gone. Or they make an error.
Yeah.
And it comes back to haunt the company.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Wow. A lot of responsibility on your shoulders there.
There is. Listen, I wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Like, I got 5 kids in my house. So my home life, I wear a big hat there.
And you don't need to be drug tested?
Right. From 24 all the way down to 3, So
Wow.
my house is busy, and then, my office, we're a busy company. Our phone rings all day long.
Yeah.
My guys are on the road every day. So we're busy.
Yeah, and you gotta have reliable people because you're following those procedures that you have to do everything by
Right.
the book.
So Seth and I have been friends since high school. So he's the VP of my company, and I call him the tank. Like, he is one that when he's supposed to be somewhere, he's going to be there. I think once in maybe 6 years, and that was only because, he's human.
Yeah.
He looked at his clock, and I was actually talking to him on the phone that morning. He's like, I'm like, are you almost there? He goes, I don't have to be there for an hour. I'm like, no, man, you're supposed to be there at 6. And he's like, oh, shit. And then, we had to call and say he was going to be late. But normally, he's wherever he's supposed to be 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
He's sitting down the road waiting to pull up. So he's awesome. Matt is I actually hired Matt. We went to school together as well. Matt was a retired corrections officer. So I was actually at Country View one day with Seth having breakfast. And I said, and Matt came up and we were talking for a minute. He's like, yeah, retiring from corrections here in a few months. I looked at Seth. I go, listen, he'd be a good pickup after. Like, those guys are very detailed, kind of like a police officer. So when Matt actually retired, I reached out to him a month or 2 later, and I said, hey, you interested in working like, maybe a day or 2 a month, nothing major? He's like, yeah, I'll check it out. And God, now he's almost full time. Like he's working 30 hours a week, primarily just at airports. Like, it's amazing to me with how much.
See, that would be so cool. I just think, like you're constantly on the tarmac. Like, I don't know. It's just like big boy toys.
Right. He loves it too. Like, he knows all the people at the airports. Like,
I'm sure.
I mean, he walks in like he owns the place. Like,
There's something so cool too to like be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah. There was actually a show for a little while called LAX, and it was about LAX.
Oh, really?
And it was like the fact that it was a full city, basically, of an airport. So, yeah, that stuff's interesting. So, is he out at Bradley all the time?
Yeah, Bradley and TF Green.
Oh, so he's...
Yeah, we're starting to do some work for Tweed, New Haven Airport.
Oh, they're growing too.
Yeah,
So
but I currently don't have anything to do with Boston.
you may not want
I
to.
don't want it.
Yeah.
What about Worcester?
No, nothing at Worcester.
There's
at
an
the moment.
airport in Worcester?
Yeah,
Oh.
JetBlue flies out of there all the time.
Yep. So
Never knew that.
we don't run the program for any of them. We just go and do their testing. So we
Collect
just
samples.
the samples.
Yeah.
So Breeze is one of our biggest contracts that we have right now. So
Wow.
Breeze keeps Matt working all the time. We do work for Southwest, American Airlines, JetBlue.
And
So
Go ahead.
So if they do a test there and it's positive, do they tell that person or they go to like a supervisor to tell them, hey, they just tested positive or whatever?
For alcohol,
Yeah.
we have a contact number. We would call.
Oh,
the
okay.
number.
So you don't even tell the person. Yeah.
Oh, the person would know that they came out positive. Yeah, the actual person we're testing.
Yeah.
They would know.
Yeah.
They blow the breath tester. They get a reading. Yeah, they get to.
Oh,
see
they're
it.
gonna
Goes
see
right
it.
on his screen.
Right. You know. It's,
Oh yeah.
I did have one beer at lunch today. You know, it's usually the story.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's why you're still 8 hours later. That alcohol is not leaving your body today. But yeah, so yeah, they would know right away, and then we have to call a corporate number, and then they would handle how
Yeah.
to deal with that person.
So he pulls, like Matt will pull pilots off the plane.
Yep, he goes right out to the gangway there, and he stands right there. And when they come off, he's like, "You see your badge? You see your badge? You see your badge? Oh, I need you. You get to come with me." Yeah. If you refuse a drug test, it's like failing. Like you got to now look at some sort of rehab program. They take you out of service.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you're dealing with thousands
Oh,
of lives
yeah.
a day. Like
Yeah,
that.
you gotta be-
crazy.
Nobody wants their
Every
pilot
time.
messed up.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Like,
No.
I mean, we've all seen the movie Flight, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, nobody wants Denzel Washington like that, you know, flying their plane and then doing a line of coke so he could be straight and narrow. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, that's
Even
wild.
people,
and that was based on a true story,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, at least he
Pretty
was
wild.
dedicated to try and stay awake and continue to fight through it.
I always love the people that say, "Oh, I don't drug testing is against my rights," and I kind of agree. Like I don't like all the rules and Big Brother. If somebody wants to ride a motorcycle without a helmet and they head cracks open like a coconut, that was their choice.
Right.
But when we talk about drug testing, I sit there and say, "You're driving my kid on a
Yeah.
school bus,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you're driving a truck next to my kid on a
Right.
school bus."
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
me extremely nervous because
Yeah.
I think for 20 years I worked at a trucking school twice a week, and I was seeing the people that were coming in getting their CDL licenses, and it was scary.
Yeah.
Like, no doubt it was scary. And I sit there and I looked at my wife. There's a couple big name tractor trailer trucks. I go, "You're on the side of one of those, step on the gas, blow by it. If you get a ticket, I'll pay it. Don't care.
Yeah.
But don't stay on the side of that truck because I see what those
Yeah.
people
Wow.
driving those.
Yeah.
It's scary."
Yeah, I sold a house recently for a guy that managed a trucking company, and he said it's like their steering wheel holders. This is what he called them.
Yeah.
Steering wheel holders. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, the trucks are state of the art. Almost everything is done for you.
There's
He's like, they have a GPS, and they still get lost. He's
well, there's in
like-
Houston, there's trucks that drive, I think it's Houston to Dallas all day long, automated. There's nobody in them.
Yeah, but that's also another scary.
Oh,
path
yeah.
we shouldn't.
Oh, I
take
know.
either.
I'm
We've all
just
seen
saying.
those movies
We
where somebody with their remote control,
Yeah.
Yes.
bad guy, taking over.
We should just shut down AI right now. I'm sorry. This is like, just shut
Are you
us
worried
up.
about it taking over the podcast?
I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it taking away purpose of humanity.
I mean, it already has.
We need purpose.
Yeah.
And the
I'm
more
with you.
jobs you lose, the more purpose we lose. Like
I am just learning how to use Chat GPT to help me write letters.
I won't do it. To me, that's plagiarism. I swear, that's what I say. It's plagiarism.
You'd be right.
It's not,
So.
but okay.
It's a form. You didn't write it.
It's not a form plagiarism.
Yes, it is.
They're
You-
teaching them in school how to constructively use AI.
They're teaching a lot of things in school I don't agree with, Kyle.
No, you mentioned they taught kids in school how to go and get a mortgage or how to balance.
Yeah, the good
checkbook.
things.
Yeah.
The things they need.
Right. I mean,
Right.
my kids don't even know about checks. Like, why,
Oh, those will be
why-
obsolete.
Why are you writing a check?
I think I only use my check to read the routing number and account number to put in something to do it electronically.
Personally, on my end, I don't write any checks. Like I have a checkbook that I've probably written 10 checks over the last couple of years. But for the business, I write a lot of checks
Yeah.
because the fees. Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
ask my companies, I'm like, listen, I'll wait a month for the check. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'd rather do that than have
Yeah.
you pay me an invoice and then I lose $300 or $400. That's my profit.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same line
Same.
as if I pay $50 for a service, if I pay it in cash, that $50 is still $50.
Right.
If you pay $50 in a credit card, it's now 1 or 2% less,
Right.
and then again and
Up to
again.
3.5.
Yeah, I was going to say
And
one or
it's
two. Yeah, more than
You-
that.
well, you want to talk about big banking and being too big to fail. We've done nothing but make them bigger since 2008. It's like, so that's, to me, that's scary. Then you couple that with all right, we're going to let AI take over most of industry. Like
I thought
that's
this podcast was about
like,
small town
it's
America.
like, yeah, exactly. We need to like crush those big things that they're doing. So, we got to stay independent, stay currency minded, and community minded.
Yeah.
Right. Listen, community minded is a big thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge.
I got a nice blister here as I went and spread some mulch the other day
Oh,
at the
yeah.
new playground
Yeah.
over there.
Oh, nice.
That was a good time. Thank
Yeah.
God some people brought some machinery. There was a lot.
I was
of
wondering
wood
if there
chips.
was going to be any machinery there.
Absolutely. But those are the things that, like Andrea Kazantzis was there. Like
Yeah.
Andrea brought her husband and her son. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
like when I talk about community people, those are the people I think of.
Yeah, and shout out to her because she invited me. I couldn't go to that day, but she did a big softball
Yeah.
tournament. I
Yep.
think it was a full tournament
Yeah, to raise money for that.
to raise money for that, and that was just such a cool concept to me. I wish I think I was away when that weekend came.
Oh, I
but,
think she's
yeah.
talking about doing another one for another cause at some point.
Yeah, I
So
would
you might get in on
definitely
that
be
one.
It would be really cool to see like if we could get like Remax Bell Park and Kazantzis on two different teams and,
Yeah.
and play and duke it out. That'd be fun.
I've seen
It's softball. It's not.
I'll be the
I'm
umpire.
not saying like let's go
So
UFC it.
haven't you seen softball? They just get into fights and all kinds of stuff.
Softball gets in
Your wife
fights?
plays it. Yeah.
She's never been in a fight. She's been playing for, I think, 35
Well, she
of her
doesn't
40
fight, but
years.
other people that show up to the field.
No.
Realtor against realtor. That'd be good.
Yeah. It'll be fine.
Yeah, listen, I think I know a lot of realtors and they all get along.
Yeah,
Like if you look at you go on my Facebook page, I would say probably, it may be like 10% of those people I know are all realtors.
I mean, you got to be able to work with them because they're going to have the buyer next week.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
week after that,
Yeah.
they're going to have the house for sale. You know, it's
They're
like,
they're not only your competition, they're going to be your partner.
right,
in a
they're
lot of things,
colleagues. Yeah, it's no different than, two employees going for the same promotion.
Yeah.
You got to still work together,
Right.
regardless of who gets it,
So I tell people all the time, I know a ton of realtors. I like them all. And if I ever sell anything, it's going to go to my old boss, Tony. Because my old boss, Tony, when I was in that car crash, she literally came to me and said, "What can I do to keep your business going?" And she helped me keep my business going for 4 months when I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
So if I ever sell a house, Tony's going to sell my house.
That's awesome. That's a great connection.
Absolutely.
And if his house goes up for sale and you need a buyer agent,
My wife brings home many more kids. I'm going to need a bigger house.
my number is 860-428-6534. No, man, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah.
And kudos to you for being so involved with the community and championing all these small businesses around and everything, and running the Brooklyn Business Association. There's so many of them.
I know. So one of the things I liked about the BBA was, for me, it's fun. Like, so
Yeah.
when I get a new client after 10 years in business, you no longer run home and celebrate or
Yeah.
go for dinner. Like, it's not, you're still excited about it and you love watching your company grow because it's your baby. When you start and you see it grow, it's fun, and you're engaged in it because you live it. But it doesn't get fun when you're doing it forever. So, doing the BBA and helping a small business, what can I do to help you? Who can I introduce you to? Or what can I do to help you? I kind of like that end because that's what I enjoyed in
yeah.
the beginning. So
Yeah.
that part I kind of like.
Yeah, that's cool.
I
And
don't
then-
I don't like this stuff. I don't like being in front of the camera.
Oh, sorry.
I don't like being the I guy.
I don't remember having to twist your arm that hard.
Even like the WINY thing. I let Joe Belvance. He loves that stuff. Like, dude, you can do it every time. Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't need to be in the forefront.
Right.
But anytime we can see the community get better in this area, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And anybody that needs Northeast Onsite Services, give Keith a call. What's your phone number?
860-412-0070.
There you go. Thanks for watching, everybody. The Community Workbench families are having their annual Spread the Love campaign. Please donate when you can, what you can, when you can. Just try to spread the love. Even in the cost of coffee can go a long way at any of our local food pantries and food shares. Join us again Monday night at 6, May 12th, when we talk to Noreen Wallace from the Holistic Collection. So we'll see you Monday. As always, buy local, hire local, dine local, volunteer local, donate local, get your urine tested locally. Have great days.